And we'll just get started now. Again, I'm Susan McGuire here at ACCE, and I'm happy to welcome you to this webinar, this ACCE official corporate sponsor webinar presented by Daryl Davis and Craig Gordon of Lifelock Identity Protection Services. And we look forward to an informative webinar on this very important topic. Before we begin the program, I'll just start with some housekeeping. First, please remember to place your phone on mute to avoid background noise. Secondly, we will have a few minutes for questions at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, please ask them using the question function of the webinar. The question box is on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Just type in your question, and we hit send, and we will read the questions to Daryl and Craig at the end of the webinar. And third, as I mentioned at the beginning, the webinar is being recorded, and that should be up on the ACCE website in our HERO information portal within the next few days. We'll also have the presentation slides up, and we will send you a follow-up email with the links to all that information along with Daryl and Craig's contact information as well. So please look for that. And with that, I'd like to turn over the mic to Chris Mead, ACCE Senior Vice President, who will introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Susan. Hello, everybody. I don't want to get in between you and LifeLock for too long. I just wanted to say we're very happy to have them. They are an official corporate sponsor of ACCE, and they will be at our convention in Montreal, so you'll also get a chance to see them there. One of our staff people, and I didn't clear this by her in advance, so I don't want to use her name, but she had her identity stolen a little while ago, so this topic hits fairly close to us here in Alexandria, and probably some of you or someone you know have had an experience like this. There are two reasons I think this call is of interest. One is, of course, that identity theft protection is a super hot topic. Seems like every week someone new gets hacked, and the other reason is that for chambers of commerce, thanks to our new arrangement with LifeLock, it becomes a source, can become a source of non-dues revenue, significant non-dues revenue for chambers of commerce, and that's what our friends will be talking about. Now, our primary contact on this program is Craig Gordon, and his information is not on the slides here, but you will get it on what is sent to you after this program. But I'll give you his phone number real quick now if you want it, and then as I say, you'll get more later. His phone number is 866-921-5650. Again, that's 866-921-5650. And just to make it interesting, there's a long extension as well. It's 4081. Again, 4081. But all that will also be in what you receive later. So Craig is our primary contact on this program itself. And then we've also brought in a ringer to talk about the program as a whole, LifeLock as a whole. His name is Daryl Davis. He is a business development manager specifically supporting the employee benefit channel of LifeLock. He's been with the company over 6 years, but actually he didn't have any choice but to be associated with the company since it started 10 years ago, and that was because it was his brother Todd Davis who's the founder and CEO. So Daryl is the brother of the founder and CEO. Daryl also has the unique distinction of being Todd's identical twin brother, which you can imagine leads to some interesting moments when you look and sound just like the CEO of an identity theft company. Well, that's interesting. I guess you can say that identity theft kind of runs in the family.
Yeah.
But Daryl, take it away.
Chris, Susan, thanks so much. Craig and I are really glad to be hosting this webinar for the ACCE. We are so proud to have a chamber program that we think is so unique from a go-to-market and a revenue strategy, in that we're simply asking for introductions to key chamber members, large employers who might have an interest in protecting their employees from identity theft. Well, you can imagine, as Chris mentioned with the headline these days, most employers are interested in helping their employees avoid having identity theft events and the lost productivity and lost time from work and high stress that's associated with it. So when we can come in and offer them a preventative solution that literally changes outcome for their employees, most employer groups are receiving that information incredibly well. Well, that comes full circle. If the chamber is our conduit, the introduction, and that's all we're asking chamber members to be, is to introduce and ask if an employer group would be interested in hearing about LifeLock as a possible benefit under no obligation. But if they implement one, well, now there's an in perpetuity revenue stream, non-dues revenue stream, coming to those chambers for every employee that enrolls for as long as they stay enrolled. There will be a revenue check coming into that chamber for each employer that they bring in and each group they bring in. So we find it to be kind of a nice program because we don't ask you to become LifeLock experts. We don't ask you to sell it. We don't ask you to get 50% of the chamber members to move on a product or a program. We're literally saying take a few minutes and introduce us to 3 or 5 key employers, and we'll take it from there and start generating revenue. I would like to spend some time with some of you in Montreal enjoying some of the successes that we already have in place between now and then, and it really is that simple. So a big point of this, the webinar would be, I would want you to see, not, again, you don't have to become experts at it, but I'd like you to see what we would be saying to an employer. This is why you would be willing to make the introduction. And again, the headlines belie a lot of the why we would do what we do. If I can get the slide to advance. One moment. Susan, do I have the control? I'll check. There we go. As we're saying, this is what we would indicate to an employer and why they would be receptive. So security breaches are in the headlines every day. We all remember the Target and the others, but now, more recently, even this year in February, Anthem announced that they had lost 80 million people's name, birth date, and social security number. Well, that is significant from an employer's perspective because that's a benefits carrier that every employer is sharing employee data with multiple benefits carriers. And through no fault of the employer, the carrier was the one that got hacked, and thus their employees got hacked. Well, again, that's a significant impact to an employer. I'm pleased to say, obviously, a lot of employers are stepping in and providing LifeLock to their employees to help change that, because we see the risk of identity theft for the average adult, for all of us, is somewhere between 7 to 11% of us are going to be a victim every year, and that's even if you weren't part of a breach. That's just the standard. And it makes sense because think how an employee or an individual is spending their day. Everywhere they go, there's a card swipe or an auto pay or an Apple Pay, or they're giving their information at a doctor's office, or they're banking both in person and online, and they might do all those things before they ever even get to work in a given day. Well, all those were points of vulnerability for a place where you could lose some of your personally identifiable information, and the thieves know that. They have multiple ways that they're trying to gain that information and to use it in ways you might not even think of. We often think of the credit card, and so they got my credit card number. That's actually oftentimes the easiest one. It's inconvenient. You have to replace the card, but at least once you've done that, you start over. You have to change all your auto pays, but at least you've stopped the continuing fraud on the old credit card. The problem is when it is your Social Security number or something to that effect, that's not going to change. That's evergreen. So 3 years from now, they may do something to you now, but they can do something again 3 years from now because it's still the same name, birth date, social that unfortunately they already have, and often on all of us. Now, when we talk to employers, oftentimes they're going to say, well, I think I already have something, either individually or as an employer that protects some of my employees. So like maybe our legal plan or our employee assistance program has something. The problem is those things don't always protect you. They're not preventative. They're meant to be an after the fact. Once you've had an event, maybe we can help you clean it up. Or some folks will think, well, I think my credit card has something. Well, again, if somebody's going out to open a new mortgage or a new wireless account or a payday loan, your credit card can't help you solve that. You can't call MX. If somebody files a false tax return in your name, you're not able to call your credit card company and ask them to help you solve that. However, LifeLock, you can. Even credit monitoring. And a lot of people associate credit monitoring as identity theft protection. But that's not actually the case. With credit monitoring, what's happening is once something has happened, an account has been opened in an employee's name, they're being told about it. They're being alerted. Lifelock's pointing out, well, we want to tell you during the application phase, not after the fact, and not once you become a victim. We want to watch for somebody using an employee's information, your individual information, at an application level. And let's stop so I can kind of give a little more color about what I mean by that. So you see on the slide here a payday loan or a new Visa or MasterCard, a new wireless account. Today, if you walk into a Verizon or an AT&T or a Sprint store, and you were going to get a new iPhone, well, the person behind that counter is keying in your information. Here's the name and the birth date and the address we associate with that person, and they're about to hand you the phone. Well, in doing so, there's a company behind the scenes called ID Analytics that is there to protect those enterprises. So again, Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, they're going to bounce that application electronically off ID Analytics and say, is this a name and an address and a birth date you associate with this individual? And ID Analytics has data points on 100% of the U.S. population, over 1 trillion aggregated data points, that they can use because they've seen you when you got a mortgage or your credit card or your utilities, and now that you're getting the cell phone, they have multiple places to compare. And sub-second, they're going to tell Verizon, yes, that looks like that individual. Go ahead with the phone. And Verizon likes that because they don't want somebody to walk out and never pay them. However, as a LifeLock member, unlike credit monitoring or things where if that were fraud, you'd find out 90 days later when it showed up, defaulted on your credit report, and now we start cleaning it up, LifeLock's quite different. We're taking that same information that ID Analytics just used to protect Verizon or Sprint, and we're using it to protect our members. So in a real-life example, if it were you at that Sprint or Verizon store, you would be standing at the counter, and while you're standing there, you're going to get an alert from LifeLock that says, hi, member, I see that you're opening a new retail account, and it's with Verizon. And you can quite literally stand there and say either, yes, that's me, or no, that's not me. And when we can do that, when we can tell you, number one, Verizon, Sprint, the enterprises love us even more, but now so do you. Whether it was you actually getting it, we don't get in the way, and you're saying you just have that moment of clarity, oh, that's right, I've got LifeLock now, they're here to protect me, much less if you're saying, hey, that's not me, I'm in a meeting, and we are literally able to stop that application so it doesn't become an account in your name. It's not something to pay up later, we're able to prevent it. So a lot of times we like to give this analogy. Think of LifeLock from like an alarm system on your identity. A lot of people have insurance where if somebody breaks in my home and steals everything, I can file an insurance claim and I can get restitution. However, what we point out is wouldn't you rather have an alarm system that stops them in progress so they don't steal everything in advance? There is a difference between the two, and that's what LifeLock is meant to be, an alarm on your information. It's a really nice system. Your ability to deliver the alerts I was just describing to you, you get to elect. You can get them by email, you can get them by text or an IVR or a phone call saying, hey, I see this information or I see this application happening. And it's a wonderful service. And picture now from an employee benefit standpoint, if we can say to an employer, I can come in and change outcome for you. At a minimum, 7 to 11% of your employees are going to have an event this year. If they've been part of a breach, again, 2, 3, up to 7 times more likely to be a victim. And that's going to impact productivity at your workplace. Okay? But just by offering what you see here, the LifeLock standard service, our core service, those identity alerts I was talking about, I'm able to now change outcome. I'm able to say, now the vast majority of those events are not going to happen. But the rare occasion something still happens, I'll have 24/7, 365 member service support at our domestically based call center that we own, ready to help that employee. And it's so nice for an employer to be able to walk in and say, if you just supply your employee with this standard, our entry-level service, they're protected from all forms, 37 types of identity theft, only half related, and they're protected from all of them. Now, they'll have the option, if they would like it, to look at some other tiers of service. We have a LifeLock Advantage and a LifeLock Ultimate Plus. What we start doing with these other tiers, you don't have to have them to be protected. I kind of refer to them as a security blanket. They provide you additional alerts, additional reporting. It's providing things like your credit scores from 3 bureaus. It's providing you necessarily access, for example, to a sex offender registry so that you can get alerted. If somebody on the sex offender registry moves into your zip code, it's going to alert you and tell you, here's who moved in, here's why they're on that registry. It's going to give you the ability to even start monitoring things at a transaction level at Advantage and Ultimate Plus. You can start adding things like credit cards or bank accounts, or even at Ultimate Plus, you can start adding investment accounts or retirement accounts. And you can tell Lifelock, I want you to start watching these accounts for me, and you even get to set the alert level. I want you to send me an alert anytime $500 or more gets charged on my credit card, or $1,000. You get to pick that. Or in this investment account, you alert me anytime $10,000 that's in or out of this account. And again, the nice part there is, even when it's you, that sense of peace of mind that we're providing makes this a very high-touch benefit to the employees. And on the rare occasion it is fraud and we can step in and stop it, it's a complete game changer. And we get to provide that for that employer as well. We can even deliver a report at the end of the year that says, of all your employees we protected, here's how many alerts we sent them. Now, remember, an alert might not be fraud. That might be you getting the iPhone. But then here's how many times one of your employees said, that's not me. And the cavalry came in, Lifelock came in and changed that outcome, protected that employee. And now you have a measurable number at the end of the year that says, hey, that new benefit we offered this year, unlike pet insurance or unlike these other, this is measurable. I can see that my employees and me as an employer overtly benefited from having this. The other nice thing we're able to deliver to employers is it's a simple process. You think an enrollment in an identity theft protection service means you have to have every piece of your personal information to provide it. Not true. It's a very simple enrollment process. We can work with an employer's existing enrollment platform or HRIS system, or we can provide them an enrollment path that we take care of. For the member, once they elect, it's wonderful. They come in just like they would their other benefits. They're going to say, which tier and which family plan would I like to have? They're going to see their confirmation, and a welcome kit will be mailed to them so congratulations, you're now protected. They can go into the member portal from the minute they're enrolled and start either providing additional information for us to monitor on their behalf, or to see any of their alerts, to see, hey, here's your new credit score, or hey, we see activity, and you can type in and say, well, let me decide whether I need to react to this. Here's an example of the alert where you get to literally say, yes, it's me, no, it's not me, when you're seeing activity. If you have a not me, you're going to be, again, sent to our member solutions team that we take great pride in. It's one of probably the best parts of our service is the member experience. On the rare occasion you might need to call in, you're going to have an exceptional experience. So, again, I want to pause for a second to give you a quantifiable way to determine how unique Lifelock is. One is what I've kind of positioned to an employer. We're a preventative service. We change outcome. Okay, how do I know that? Well, I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that somewhere between 7 and 11% of the U.S. population is going to be a victim of identity theft each year. So that would apply to any employer group. It would apply to the base of people I protect today. So I protect over 3.5 million members of Lifelock today. So I should have had over 200,000 events of identity theft that occurred to my members last year. And if I were an insurance product where I just aggregated risk and then paid out against that, I would have had that number. But because I mitigate risk and I change outcome, we've had less than 10,000 people in the 10 years of the company who have had to invoke the service guarantee. Now, the odd part is they're my biggest fan. That's the person who said, I had Lifelock, something still occurred, I call Lifelock, and here comes the cavalry. We'll spend up to $1 million to go make that person whole. We'll hire attorneys or private investigators at our expense. We're not insurance. We don't ask the member to hire an attorney and submit a claim and we'll reimburse you. We pay those people directly. Our member solutions team takes the lead and starts cleaning this up for individuals. What's a world-class member experience? So that's the first number. If I can have less than 10,000 in 10 years instead of the 200,000 plus I should have had last year, we know I mitigate risk and change outcome. The second is that member experience we talked about. I am a paid subscription service. You see the rates in front of you for what an employer would be offered if they were to offer Lifelock as an employee benefit to their members. So, for example, the employee-only individual coverage, that standard service is $8.50 a month for that employee to be protected. My services, once you sign up, you can cancel anytime you like. You don't sign a long-term contract. You're not locked in for any length of time. You can ongoing keep it, or you can cancel anytime you like. And even knowing that, I have 87% customer retention in a paid subscription service you can cancel anytime. We can make an employer feel incredibly confident that their employees are going to like this experience. They will enjoy it. They would not want to give it up. The other nice thing when I show you the pricing and the different packages available that we would be offering to any employers you introduce us to is that this is a 15% discount in all packages off our retail service. So again, the most aggressive pricing for the employees getting a overt benefit in savings, even if it's completely voluntary and they're paying for it. The other nice advantage for employers, and this is the only place they can get family pricing, have family packages like this. If any of you were to go to lifelock.com today, the price, for example, would be $10 for the standard service for an individual, and there would not be employee, spouse, or employee and children offers available. Only happens through the employee benefit program. So I think the key takeaways is I'm a preventative service first. I'm proactive. I'm changing outcome, and for any employers who have been part of a breach, that would change things dramatically for them. Because it means that employees are going to avoid all those actual events. And bear in mind, you have groups like Anthem that have come in and provided a service called All Clear for anybody who's been a member of a breach. Well, what All Clear was meant to do is be remediation only. In other words, the employee still has to have an identity theft event. They have to find it. They have to self-report, and they have to prove that they were covered by Anthem during the time which they would get the service. Once they've done that, they're assigned a remediation specialist. Well, that's still a lot of events and a lot of stress tied to that. In fact, don't get me wrong, I'd rather them have All Clear and a remediation specialist than be left on their own. But if I could tell an employer, why don't I start back at the beginning of that process and just avoid the incident? Well, an employer will absolutely see this as an incredible benefit to them, much less their employees. Again, people can change or cancel anytime. I hope everybody on the call has heard of Lifelock before. We certainly make a genuine effort to do it. My twin brother, when he used to give his Social Security number out in our national ads, was trying to tell everybody your information's already out. We have to make it useless. I guess between Todd's old commercials and the Anthem breach, that's true of everybody now. I'd want people to know, again, it's a 24/7, 365 support, and it could be on anything from, hey, I just lost my wallet, and I need your help, Lifelock. We'll step in. But to an employer specifically, the other nice thing is if you choose to offer this, I'll be one of the highest profile benefits you'll offer all year. Because, again, I'm going to touch your employees while they're just living their regular lives. Now, you'll end up with some great stories of people coming back and saying, oh, you're not going to believe I got a phone call and somebody was trying to get a mortgage in my child's name this weekend. And that new benefit, Lifelock, stopped it. The nice thing about all this, and again, I certainly want to leave time here for questions, the nice thing, and I hope one of the key takeaways for everybody, would be that we are not asking for anything more than, I hope, 5 to 15 minutes of your time to have a successful Lifelock program. And I truly believe the sequence looks something like this. As a chamber, you would send out an email or make a few phone calls to a couple of key employer groups just initially. It doesn't need to be an email blast to everyone. And it would be something to the effect of, hey, we've partnered with this group. It sounds like an interesting employee benefit. You're certainly under no obligation, but would your HR team be willing to visit with Craig or Daryl, somebody about this Lifelock program? And then we'll take it from there. Craig and I will run those meetings or set up those calls. We do this every day with large employer groups. We'll sit with them and figure out how they would like to enroll it, if they like it, what they'd like to do. And then we'll let you know, congratulations, Employer X did like the program. It'll be enrolling on, May 1st or June 1st. So congratulations, you can start expecting an in perpetuity revenue check for that partner starting in about July or August. And it will be coming for years to come. If every revenue program were as simple as that, I would imagine you would stack them on top of each other. In the meantime, I hope we come across as about the simplest partner program you could have, even if you're not normally in the process of having affinity programs that you run and manage. I'd almost refer to this more as a referral program. It just happens to have a revenue piece tied to it. But let me pause. Susan, are there any questions that have come in that Craig or I can answer?
Yes. Yeah, Daryl, thank you so much. We do have a couple questions coming in, and folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box, and we will get them, and we will read them to Daryl and Craig. The first question is, you listed several companies that have been hacked. What keeps Lifelock from being hacked?
You know, it's a great question. I would tell you two things. And again, I would have to say, I guess nobody should think they're 100% vulnerable or can't be vulnerable. I will tell you we've never lost any member data. And considering this is literally our only business, we don't take member data and resell it for other things. We don't do anything but protect identities. That we have systems in place that have been as progressive and aggressive as any group you would ever think of. And I'll give one example. If you were a Lifelock member today, you would have your birth date secured on a encoded server at a certain location. And yet you would have your name on a different server at a different location. And then you would have your address at a different server at a different location. So for us, we don't aggregate all the data in one location. So even if one of those servers were to be hacked, which again, we're certainly working to make sure that doesn't happen, you would not have now lost your data like you would, for example, on the Anthem, where, hey, everything was in one place. Name, birthday, social, and they were all associated with you as the individual. Can't happen with Lifelock. You couldn't get to all the data through any one hack. The other kind of side note I would answer to that, Susan, is even if we were to ever lose any member data, it would be a political relations or public relations nightmare. But the reality is for us, it's no different. Whether Anthem lost your data, whether Target lost your data, or God forbid if Lifelock lost your data, it would not materially impact how I go out and now protect the member that's been exposed. I'm still going to be watching for all those applications. I'm still going to pay the $1 million to make it whole. But let's, well, everybody please say a little prayer for me that it's never me that loses it. I just don't want to have to deal with that PR. But proud to say we'd be able to protect me no matter what. What else do you have, Susan?
Okay. We have a couple questions on how does the program generate revenue for the Chamber? What is the revenue that the Chamber would receive? And what is the referral fee percentage? So questions about how the Chamber makes revenue from this program.
Sure. Craig, as you guys running for me, you want to kind of give everybody a quick rundown?
I'd be happy to. And everybody, it's nice to meet you here, and appreciate you all taking the time. And I've been now working on this program for several months now, and had the privilege to work with some great chambers, and of course we continue to refine the program. As it relates to the revenue share, it's pretty simple. You all get 5%. Every chamber gets 5% of every dollar that's generated on that. So whether that's the basic product or the Ultimate Plus, the referring chamber is getting 5% of all revenues generated per month into perpetuity. And so the again, we're looking at an average price right now. I mean, if you want to look at the math, we're looking at an average price of about $17 per member, and again, that's going to be a combination of employees just buying it for themselves, buying it for their families. So it's anywhere between 50 cents to $1 of ongoing revenue per member per month. And one of the exercises that I always do with a chamber is I like to identify what is their annual membership dues. And let's make a goal together of generating opportunities and revenues to where I'm bringing you the equivalent revenue stream of a new member coming in every single solitary month. And then let's scale that out. So we want to get a quantifiable goal, get a reachable goal. And as Daryl said, this is unlike other programs out there where other affinity programs where you're kind of dealing in a mass marketing approach. This is much more of a targeted approach. We're literally dealing with the friends of the chamber, larger employers, because again, we don't need an army of people to sign up for this to hit that membership number, again, going back to that goal. So it's a great revenue stream, as Daryl mentioned. We do all the heavy lifting. We're really just looking to you as a chamber to do what you do best, and that is to continue to build those relationships, improve those relationships, add value to those relationships, and let us help deliver on that.
Thanks, Craig. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you, Craig. We have some questions on whether there's a minimum employer size, a minimum number of employees in a company, and is this only offered, to employer groups?
Great question. I can take that one again. Right now the program is offered only to employer groups. On the rare circumstances here that we need to offer it on an individual basis, we can take a look at that. But no, it's generally segmented out to employer groups. There is no minimum size other than the fact that, obviously a group of 1,000 employer or 100 employer is going to yield a lot more results than a two-person group. But we're not segregating those small employers, because the reality is most of your members are probably small employers. That makes up the general population of most chambers. So we want to obviously encourage those individuals to sign up. But the reality is that the process is so simple that we can do it. But when we're dealing on a literally from a revenue goal perspective, and again, just trying to be conscious of that, all it takes is one employer. We're also, you got to look if we're offering this as a voluntary benefit, which means that the employee is paying for 100% of this. So the employer is offering it. They're going to deduct it via the payroll deductions, but it's still paid for by the employee. When you do it on that basis, on the first go-around, you're going to see anywhere between 20 and 30% participation. So it's not going to be 100% participation. And so typically the larger employers or group. Interestingly, and I'll stop talking here, but interestingly enough is that we're seeing more and more employers actually paying for a good portion, if not all, of this, because the reality is it's a low-cost benefit that has high impact. And with other benefit costs that are kind of escalating out here and increasing, this is a nice benefit that, again, it's got a lot of visibility, a lot of pertinence out there that the employer can provide at a relatively low cost.
Well, and Susan, to that end, I'll add, we did have a group last year that, if only it had been a chamber program, over a 10,000 life oil and gas company came in and said, we're buying it for everyone, and it's employer-sponsored, and they can opt out, but otherwise we're giving it to everyone. So there were, overnight, there were over 10,000 enrollments for that group. The in-perpetuity revenue stream for one of the chamber members, had that been an introduction or referral, would have far exceeded whatever goal you might have set with Craig to start the year. That would be a program we would all be talking about in Montreal and celebrate.
And it's doable. I mean, there's employers that are looking for this, and we're getting incredible reception from most employers. Another statistic here is we're closing about 3 out of 5 introductions that chambers are giving to this, big and small. So again, it's a very relevant product in today's market.
I did want to say we have run a little bit over, but Daryl and Craig have agreed to stay on and answer the remaining questions. We do have a number of remaining questions, so please, everyone, feel free if you need to get off the call and do other things. That's fine, and we'll be sending around the follow-up information. But Daryl and Craig have graciously agreed to stay on and answer the remaining questions, and they will be recorded. So everyone, hang on or get off, whatever you need to do. But we'll plug along for at least 5 or so more minutes. Here's a good question. If a member drops their membership with the chamber a year or 2 after joining with Lifelock, do we still get the checks for that company even though they're not a member anymore?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll take it a step further. As employees leave the employer, it's what's called a portable benefit. In other words, they'll be given the option if they would like to continue their enrollment. They are able to do that even after they leave, and a good percentage do, and you continue to get paid on that person even if they were no longer an employee of the chamber company anymore.
Okay. Now we have a couple questions that compare LifeLock to other protections or companies. So we have a question, how would you say LifeLock compares to Legal Shield identity theft protection? And then there's another one that says, is the price cheaper than the Sean Hannity offer that is promoted on TV? I'm not familiar with that offer, so I don't know if they're the same thing.
Okay. It is. It's cheaper, 10% off, or like 30 days free is usually a lot of our national marketing through our other partners. So the employee benefit channel will be insulated there. They'll have the better offer. The second one was we're kind of comparing to like a Legal Shield. They're actually a perfect example. I think the analogy I would almost use here would be Legal Shield. If you thought of this as life insurance, it would be like Legal Shield telling you that we provide you $10,000 of life insurance. And conceivably then saying, well, then I guess I don't need any life insurance because I already have some. When $1 million policy of life insurance is certainly wildly different than $10,000 that was included in something else. Well, that would be the analogy I would probably most make to a product like Legal Shields, or there are others, the MetLife Defender product and some others. They are still a reactionary service that don't change outcome on the front end at all. They're not preventative. They're going to allow something to happen, and then they would be willing to absolutely step in and try to help you clean it up. But they can't send you that alert while you're standing in the Verizon store, like Lifelock can. So that would be where you'd see a differentiator. I would tell you, for example, I'm happy to be on a benefits platform right next to Legal Shield, because you certainly couldn't get a will created from Lifelock. You should probably have the Legal Shield product. It's wonderful. I just wouldn't want anybody to think, well, I'm also going to say I already checked the box on identity theft protection with what's included in a Legal Shield product. And I don't mean to pick on them. I actually like Legal Shield. It's just a wildly different, I'm a preventative, proactive service, and they're not.
Okay. We have a couple questions on what's the next step? How do folks sign up? What should they do? What should they do next if they're interested?
Great. Yeah, great question. There's a marketing agreement, simple page-and-a-half marketing agreement here that I will send to you. So the next step would be to reach out to me. This is, again, Craig Gordon. I know my contact information will be sent. We can have a brief call and go through the steps. But the first is the marketing agreement. Then after that, we have an implementation call where we discuss, really get to know a little bit more about, who in your organization is in charge of marketing and membership relationship and those types of things. That's probably who I'm going to be working closely with. We supply all of the marketing materials and really communications that you can disseminate out, whether those are emails, flyers, etc. And then, as Daryl has mentioned, it's really as simple enough as let's identify whether those are the top large employers in your organization or friends of the chamber, but we try to identify at least 3, if not 5, that we want to target, because I think you all agree that the sooner that we have success together, the better this relationship is going to be, and the excited that we're going to build on that, because of course members talk, and we're kind of looking for that bell cow inside your chamber to really help to organically spread the word. So agreement, implementation call, and then we get to work, targeting some members, and the rest gets pretty fun after that.
Okay. Here's a good question. We don't always have great internet and cell phone service coverage in our area. How do you connect with people, those people, in case of a breach?
Oh, that's great. Actually, they get the choice of how they most want to be alerted. So they would pick, a member would tell me what's the best way for me to get a hold of them. Great point, though. If you don't have consistent cell service or access to the internet, it may delay your ability to get an alert. Here's the good news. You don't have to respond to an alert, okay, even if it's fraud. And let's go back to that cell phone example. If I were to send Susan an alert that says, hey, I see you get a new cell phone, she doesn't respond, it is me, or it isn't me. She doesn't respond at all. And it was fraud. Somebody walked out of that store. We don't say, well, you didn't respond, so now it's your fault. We literally say, no problem, Susan, we're going to go fix that for you. So that's the nice part. The alert system's wonderful, and it can work in near real time in sub-second. But the other nice part is, if I just can't get to you, you're in a bad cell range, you can respond whenever you see the alert. You can go to the portal anytime and see any alerts we've sent you, but it is not your responsibility. You do not have to respond for the service to be in place.
Okay. Now here's a couple of questions that we're not sure you answered yet, so we'll just make sure. One is, what other groups are you offering this to? City, county governments, other nonprofits? And then another one that says, what about mom and pop businesses? Are they eligible if only one family runs the business?
Sure. Well, anybody's eligible. And do know there are absolutely employee benefit brokers that this is their whole job, is to go out and introduce us to employers and get them to offer Lifelock as employee benefit. So anything from public sector to private companies, there are brokers that's their job. we're actually kind of asking the chamber to be more the, hey, the friend to that employer, where you're quasi, you don't even have to do all the same work as a broker. You're just making the introduction, and we'll take it from there. But so I would say, yes, the offers being made by employee benefit brokers all over the country. In that regard, it's just a foot race. Who's going to get the one that sets up the call where Craig or I are talking to the HR team and close the deal? So that's why I say I encourage everybody to make those introductions sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's out in the marketplace now. The nice part is they're not getting a pricing benefit. They're not getting anything else if they go through their channel than they would be you. So now it's just a matter of who can get the meeting or the call set up. And yes, it's certainly available to mom and pops. We don't mean that it isn't. I think if anything, we would simply want to temper enthusiasm if we get a case for a chamber that is 5 enrollment. Happy to be protecting those individuals. That just doesn't, 5% of the revenue that would come off 5 individuals just won't generate a significant revenue stream at that moment. In fact, hardly noticeable revenue stream. So we just wouldn't want you to start with your efforts there. We're afraid you would have success and we close one, but then the check would be largely not enough. Versus one good introduction to a large employer group can immediately start delivering a check, and then we can build on from there. So I think it's just prioritizing. Craig and I wouldn't want you to try to make 50 introductions when, 3 to 5 can be enough to have a wildly successful program.
Okay. We have a couple questions on whether a member can move to direct bill. Should they leave their employer?
They can. Yep, they can.
And yeah, I think the next question is the same. Is the plan portable to employees at the same rate as provided through? Okay.
It is, and at the same rate. That's a good clarifier. And at the same rate. They get offered to stay at the same rate.
Perfect. And then we have some questions about whether there's any upfront cost to the chamber and whether you provide marketing materials necessary to promote as a benefit.
No upfront cost, and yes, we provide marketing support. We absolutely do. I still say the nice thing is it might be as simple as one email introduction might be all you need, and then again, let us effectively serve as the salespeople who send the employer that we're about to have that call or meeting with all the collateral, all the information. We honestly wouldn't need you to be the one to do it. Once you've made the introduction and they agree to meet, we'll take it from there. But yes, it's all available to you where you want to use it on our behalf or to go ahead and pre-seed the environment with the information.
Can a chamber opt out of the program at any time?
Sure. Well, in fact, if you think about it, even if they were contracted with Craig, other than once the program's in place and we're sending the check, you could have one large group, never enroll another group. You're still going to be getting a check years from now. Now, to a certain extent, opting out would mean nothing more than we just don't make any introductions. We didn't do anything to generate an enrollment, but there was no obligation, fees, or otherwise associated with it. The agreement's more just the ability to give you the leverage so that we can pay you when those introductions are made and the deals are closed.
Another question, are you getting, would the chambers be getting this product at a discount as opposed to what the EE benefits broker is showing?
No, the same price. So it's a level playing field. So it's literally more an element of I would say both who can get to a group first, but you would also, I think, have the advantage of saying to a large employer group who is a friend of the chamber, hey, I can get you as good a pricing as you can get through a benefits broker, and you're benefiting the chamber if you happen to launch a program. Okay?
Here's a question. Why not just freeze your credit at the 3 credit bureaus?
And I think the main reason, don't get me wrong, that's a great way to protect yourself, but it's highly inconvenient. What it means is we refer to as we don't like to add friction. We want you to be able to walk in and get your new iPhone if you want it at one of those stores. If you freeze your credit, you can't. You physically have to unlock your credit before they can open that account, before they can give you the phone, and before you can walk out of the store. And then you'd have to go back and refreeze it. Oh, and by the way, there's a fee tied to doing that. So I would tell you, again, it's a good way to make sure nobody can open it, but you are absolutely going to add some friction to your own daily life. We'd rather you live freely, go about your business, get to online bank and do all the other things you want to do, shop Amazon, do all this, and know we've got your back. And if something happens, we'll fix it.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is that something to always keep in mind that sometimes gets ignored, but like it was in the headlines, is the billions of dollars that have been pushed out the door from the IRS in fraudulent tax returns. And that's something, too, to think about as far as if somebody's, filing taxes in your name and medical bills. I mean, there's so many other things outside of just opening up a new credit card or opening up a line of credit or buying a boat, buying a new car. There's a lot of other things out there from an identity theft issues that people need to be aware of. So.
Okay. We have a couple of questions for folks wanting your email information, and again, that will be in the follow-up email that we'll send out. So that definitely will be provided. Someone else was interested in possibly having Lifelock offer a webinar to their members, and that's something I'm sure that you guys can talk about. And then there was one last question. Please elaborate or say a few words on the Employee Plus family plan.
Sure. The family plans were meant to allow our product to look like a lot of other benefits that, and you can picture, right? We've all been in that spot that time of year where you're electing which health plan do you want, which coverages, and do you want a vision or a dental plan? Well, ours is meant to look just like that. So, for example, on a Family Plus plan, you can enroll like I think it's like 4 adults and up to 6 or 8 minors, all under one price and one plan. We even count the minors now, so it looks like there are other benefits, like the Affordable Care property. So a 26-year-old is what's designated as a minor in that plan. Now, we don't have to do that. We've just done that for convenience of an employee benefit group or an HR group, so that our enrollment and our process and some of our rules look the same as all the other benefits they're managing. Did that take care of them all, Susan, Dana? Oh, go ahead.
This is Chris Mead. I just wanted to jump in real quick because some people seem to want to get hold of you guys. So for convenience, I'm going to give one email address. This is Craig Gordon's, and Craig, you can send to Daryl anything that needs to go in that direction. But just so, if those of you who want to get him by email quickly, here it is, instead of waiting for 2-3 days. Craig Gordon, that's C. Gordon, that's CGORDON, at, and then premiersmi.com. That's PREMIERSMI.com. Again, PREMIERS as in Sam, MI.com. Just in case you want to shoot a quick email over to them. Anything else, Susan?
I think we're down to the end of the questions. One person wanted to see the pricing slide one more time.
Sure.
And maybe you could just put that up. And again, we'll send all of these around. Otherwise, I think it's probably time to wrap up. We do appreciate everyone's participation and questions. And Daryl and Craig, thank you so much for staying on the line and talking about this important service. We really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Chris, do you need to say any final words?
You guys did a great job. Thank you. This is a really exciting program. I think, Daryl, you talked about the foot brace thing, and we have seen it in other affinity programs, and I'm not saying it's the case of this one, but a lot of them there's kind of an up and a down, a period where it gets hot and then it has a life, but nothing lives forever. And you want to catch them on the upside, and here we have a very hot program that's got only about 1% of the U.S. population on it, and so this is the time. I would think it's proven itself, and so I'm pretty excited about it. Anyway.
Chris, thank you so much. Susan, thank you so much. Everybody who attended, I appreciate it, and I look forward to celebrating with everybody in Montreal some of the wins and successes we have between now and then.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. Look for the email and look for this on our website in the next 2-3 days or so. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.